Hello, Trojan fans. Welcome to another edition of the Peristyle Podcast on a Thursday. Today we're going to talk with Chris Trevino about USC Spring Football, Pro Day, new enter into the transfer portal, and lots more. If you're watching us live on our YouTube channel, we are back. Yes, it's been a while. It's been a couple weeks since we've been live in studio, but we're doing that right now, so you can watch us. Follow us along live. If you're in the chat box, say hello. Make sure you smash that like button and put any questions or comments you have. If you're listening on any of our podcasting channels, we appreciate that as well. If you have any questions for the show, we'll be back doing these regularly. I think during the spring, we're going to shoot for noon on Thursday before going to USC spring practice on Thursday afternoon. So that's going to be the schedule for the next month or so. Noon on Thursday. So if you want to get your questions in, try to do it before that. Just say it's for the Chris and Ryan Show. And you can do that by emailing podcast@uscfootball.com. You can also call or text us at 424-254-9141. Shoot us a text or leave us a brief voicemail, and we'd love to play it on the air. We have one for you today. And if you have the Apple Podcasting app, follow along with the show and subscribe. Follow us at the Peristyle Podcast. Leave us a 5-star rating review. It does help to grow the show. I haven't looked to see if we have any new reviews. I don't think we do. I think we're good. Oh, wait. No, I'm sorry. We do have a couple. Yeah. But anyway, welcome in, Chris. How you doing?
I'm good. I was just thinking, I can't remember the last time we did a show together. So it's been a minute. I'll tell you that.
It's been a minute. I'm going to put a little thing up there. Smash the like button. Yeah. If you're watching us live, thank you again. We have, I have your comments up here on the screen. If you want to send us a question for later on the show, just put question to start. I will star it and come back to it later. But in the meantime, smash that like button. We need it smashed all over the place. And don't smash it twice, then it might unlike. I don't know. But you can subscribe, that little bell there that will give you a notification when we go live. And for sure, subscribe to the channel. Peristyle Podcast is growing all the time. We got a bunch of videos that go up after every practice, so make sure you check all that stuff out. But Chris, you doing okay?
I'm doing okay. You know, Tuesday practice was a little rough just because of all the rain. Cold. Yeah. Shouldn't be like that today. It should at least not be raining. So, but I'm excited to get back out there, get back into the flow of things.
Get back into the flow.
You know, we only had that one practice Wednesday 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
We went on spring break. Now we're back to 2 practices a week. This is our first time with 2 practices this week. So, you know, just trying to get back into the flow of everything as we move through spring camp. It feels like spring camp is actually really starting this week.
Yeah, for sure, because it was like basically like 2 weeks off, like you mentioned. They had one practice and then, 2 weeks later. We had a couple of new reviews. USC Frazier Boy says, addicted to USCFootball.com. First-year subscriber, cannot stop listening and reading. Have to have my morning fix. Shout out to 20K. Oh, that's nice. Thank you for being a subscriber.
I'm not there yet. I'm almost there, but I'm not there yet.
Getting there. And we have a deal going on right now, so go over to USCFootball.com. I think it's still going, right, Chris? 50% off?
Ends tonight.
So make sure you do that. So if you're not a subscriber, perfect time. You can sign up for half off. You will definitely not regret it. So make sure you check it out. We also have a 5-star from SC Vermeer, composite 2-star podcast. I followed SC recruiting closely since the 90s. Never have I been this informed, and it's because of this podcast. Special shout out to Gerard Martinez. You're the best in the business.
He is the best in the business. That's why I corralled him into doing a podcast that we do pretty much weekly. So
yeah,
new episode dropped this morning. If you're, a composite 2-star fan, and
you should be
waiting to get your fix. It was up at 12:40 a.m. this morning. So, and if you're not, go check it out.
Check it out. You're up late. Ron from LA, Lower Alabama. Is Jack in the studio box? Jack is not. So Jack will be at practice today. We're going to try to do a tunnel vision Sunday, but I don't think the schedules and stuff is going to work out. So we will get Jack back. Jack had some mobility issues. He's now back out there. So we got to get this going again. So we'll figure out a tunnel vision to do maybe during the week if we can't do on the weekends. But we want to get Jack back out there because he's an integral part of the team. Also want to thank our sponsor, Trader Joe's. You know what I had for dinner last night, Chris?
I'm going to guess it's something from Trader Joe's.
Guess, what's your favorite from Trader Joe's?
Orange chicken? You went orange chicken?
I went orange chicken. My mom is visiting. We stopped in the studio, actually, while Chris was recording, and I dropped off him some cupcakes. That's my thing, I guess. I just drop you off sweets. But
I'm not complaining.
Yeah. And but I had some of the frozen rice, which I like to make from Trader Joe's, and the orange chicken, which I did in the air fryer, which I really like. It comes out really good in the air fryer. And some of those dumplings that I like, those soup dumpling things. So those are really good. A great dinner there. And I'm having some people over this weekend. So I got to pick up a bunch of snacks from Trader Joe's, a bunch of wine, pick up some different beers. I like getting like the little 6-packs of like craft beers and stuff. But they have great wine. I mean, you can get a whole bunch of wine, $10. I'm going to do some, I think it's going to be like a Sunday afternoon thing. So mimosas for sure. I'll buy the Prosecco over there at Trader Joe's. So
mimosa.
Going to be a big Trader Joe's run either Friday or Saturday. So make sure you guys go check it out. They've been a great partner to us over the years. Have you made a run lately, Chris?
I haven't. I'm still stocked up from that last run I made with all the gift card run, but I got like 4 bags of orange chicken. So I'm like stocked nicely. So somehow that pork belly sitting in the freezer, and the Korean barbecue short ribs. I still have those, waiting to break those out. But yeah, I do need to make a run for snacks. But in terms of big items, I'm pretty stocked right now. But I will be going probably the next week or so.
Yeah, Kings fan said he was the 24th person to smash the like button. It was funny. We had more likes when there were people waiting coming in, so that was kind of nice. How many we got? How many degenerates on there? Yeah, we got a bunch.
Is it degenerates? Is that what it's become?
That's what you like to say.
Yeah, is that like becoming this is the first time you've actually said it. So.
I just want to log. Yeah, we got 62 people watching, I guess, right now. So thank you for doing that. We appreciate it. Watching us live, and if you're listening on any of the podcasting platforms, that is great as well. The live thing's just kind of fun because we can get some questions as we're going. We don't have as many emails today, so if you do have a question about what's going on in spring practice, jump in there and put it in the chat box right now if you're listening to us live. But yeah, Chris, you mentioned it. USC had 3 practices 2 weeks ago. We only got to see one of them, parts of one of them. And then they were back on Tuesday, 13 days off. So they had spring break, and they started on Tuesday. I was a little under the weather. I didn't go down there to campus, but you were there. There was a pro day in the morning, so we had like Jack and RJ and those guys down there watching USC Pro Day. But then in the afternoon was spring practice number 4, pouring down rain. We get word that practice might be a little delayed because of the rain, but there was no avoiding it. It was basically just coming down in buckets. You didn't seem super happy out there. You're still taking your ghost notes and everything, which are great. Make sure you go check out the ghost notes, one of the best features we have at uscfootball.com. But it seemed like Lincoln Riley was happy that it was raining, just to get a little, inclement weather out there for them to practice in.
Yeah, he was definitely jazzed up about having the rain, which his reasoning, it makes a lot of sense. They're blessed with amazing weather, 350 days of the year, Southern California, but football games are not always played in the perfect conditions. So he was talking about how he has actually moved walkthroughs and moved practice time, so they will be able to practice in the rain. They want that experience in the inclement weather, in the elements, in the rain, wet balls. You're going to have snow when you're going to the Big Ten. So it's just about looking ahead and, thinking not outside the box, but just thinking about those little things like, let's not avoid the rain. We're going to have to play football in the rain at some point. Let's get the team ready to do that. Let's have practice in the rain. So football weather, football coach kind of speak, wanted to get them acclimated to playing in the rain. So they took full advantage, and there was plenty of rain for them to practice with on Tuesday.
All right. Sorry, I was just checking a message while you were talking about there. Yes, rain, Southern California. It's kind of rare, right? I think we had like 6 inches of rain or something. We get like 0.6 normally. That's just this last month. There were people clamoring for, you need an indoor facility and blah, 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 blah. USC needs facility upgrades for sure, but having like a full-on indoor, that's not something I don't think USC needs. You mentioned it. It hardly ever rains here. We just have had a bunch of rain the last few weeks. But the fact that they couldn't do all like the pro day stuff outside like they wanted to, there were some people complaining, and I'm like, I don't get that complaint. Like, do you need, bigger offices? Like Lincoln Riley talked about just not even having enough office space for the guys that they were bringing in. Stuff like that makes a lot of sense. I mean, if you want better weight rooms and all that, no problem with all that. But USC doesn't necessarily need an indoor, practice facility just because it's Southern California. I mean, it's almost like, if you remember like Lane Kiffin going up to Oregon that year, like dressing like he was going on like the Iditarod or whatever. Just it was like so much, but like he's like, hey man, it's really freaking cold here and the weather sucks. You don't have to do this stuff in Southern California. It was sort of like a flex. If USC built like some big indoor facility, I don't know, it's just sort of like thumbing your nose at how good the weather is, I guess.
Yeah, it just seems like it would be a waste of space because you don't need it. I mean, you've said to the point of this, you're in Southern California. It's like I said, 350 days out of the year. It's beautiful. And just because Pro Day happened to fall on the one day it was raining, this isn't uncommon. The Sam Darnold Pro Day was raining also, and he solidified himself as a top 3 pick with that performance in the rain. Obviously wasn't helpful for 40 times and stuff like that. It was a little bit miserable, but yeah, you don't need to focus on building an indoor facility just so you can have perfect 40 times one day out of the year, essentially.
Yeah, every other, twice a decade you need a pro day, whatever. Yeah, that was, what was it? Thomas Haslam? Was it the Browns? I forget. It's the Brown. It's something Haslam. Like he's the Browns owner, and he was I remember being at pro day in the stands, and he was like, so the billionaire's like sitting up like kind of behind me. And everyone assumed that everyone's picking Darnold, if you remember that, with the first pick. And they went with Baker Mayfield. So, like, the Browns get Baker Mayfield. You could have had Darnold. It's not been great or anything, but you also could have had Josh Allen. So,
were they in the same draft?
Yeah, I believe. If I'm not mistaken, those were all the guys were in the same draft, right?
I don't know.
I could pull that. But chat, let us know. I think it was Josh Allen, Baker Mayfield, and Sam Darnold. I think they were all in the same draft. But we put some stories up over at uscfootball.com from Pro Day if you want to go check that out. Andrew Voorhees talked about, that inspiring performance. He felt he could have set a record. He put it up the bench press 225 pounds, 38 times. He, talked to Ahmad and wrote a story on it. It's like he thought he could have set the record, but he had the biggest, the highest total for the combine. So he's just a freak on the bench press. But to do that on one leg, it was pretty impressive. And so I think that alone might have, he was one of the best guards in the country. And I think people will take a chance on him, even though he's got the injury, showing the kind of gut determination that he did, the grit. I feel like that's probably going to help him. So it was cool to kind of read his story, Chris.
Yeah, I mean, just a really sad story, but there is some positive out of it, and just that perseverance and that mentality to not give up even when something like that happens to you, which is a metaphor for life.
Yeah,
because things like that are going to happen. So it's really great to see him have that outlook and kind of persevere through that. And I hope a team takes that into account when they're going to the draft. And I know he's hopeful they can get drafted, and he was going to get drafted before this, but I'm hoping that he can come out the other side drafted going into April when the draft is.
Yeah, that would be great for Andrew, great kid, and seeing like a Travis Dye out there who's coming back from the injury, Jordan Addison catching some balls, so it was good. It's good to be out there. It wasn't. I mean, the rain sort of dampened everything, but you're gonna root for those guys going forward and hope you see some more Trojans, as I like to say, when the draft comes this April. Later on in the day, like you said, there was practice, and got to hear from Alex Grinch. We'll talk about in a second, but Lincoln Riley, good to hear from him. We talked to him a couple weeks ago, and I think it was the last time we talked to him. I think it was like the Saturday Zoom call or something like that.
He
or
didn't
was
do a Saturday Zoom.
He didn't do it. When was it? I forget. It was the previous. Like, it was 2 weeks ago, I think. When they were doing the practice and everything, but. He had some interesting to say about like scholarship numbers, and we're going to talk about one guy that's dropped off. But he's saying there's still a couple spots open, so there might be players that are off the team or in the portal that we don't know about yet, or planning to go into the portal. And I thought it was interesting that he didn't have really a plan. Like, we're getting a defensive lineman and an offensive tackle. It was just sort of like, hey, we're going to add where we need to add. Bringing in guys. I don't know. What did you make of what he said about that?
I mean, I'm not surprised by anything he said. We knew that USC, even if he hadn't come out and said it, we knew that USC would be buyers in the second portal opening. That's not a secret. USC still needs some help at the defensive line. You could probably use one more offensive lineman. So we knew they were going to be buyers. That's not a secret. And I'm not shocked he didn't come out and say what they're going to need, because for the most part, you don't know what's going to be in the portal in 3 weeks. Like, did we think Malcolm Epps was going to be in the portal? Not necessarily,
No.
But you have no idea who was going to enter the portal. Now, the coaches, I'm sure they maybe have a sense of maybe who's going to be in the portal. You check those back channels, you check those you're making your little calls to high school coaches and high school parents. You're checking the feelers out there to, like, what's the landscape going to look like for the portal in several weeks, and that can give you an idea. But you really don't know who's going to go in the portal, because you could be hearing, oh, this big time name is going to go in the portal, but 2 weeks later they get a big NIL deal done. So and then they never enter. So it's like planning for a trip where you don't know where you're going. So you don't know what you're going to see, you don't know what you're going to do, but you just have your idea of what you want, and you just hope that enters. And if there's a big time name that enters, like if there's a big time tight end that enters, I'm sure there'll be players, because USC is depleted right now at that position. If there's another big time tackle that enters, yeah, I'm sure they'll kick the tires. And I know if there's a defensive lineman in there, they're going to kick the tires as well. So you just got to wait and see what gets served up in the portal in the coming month.
USC won't need a quarterback, obviously, with Caleb Williams coming back. But we did get a chat. DJ Whitehead said, the three guys I mentioned were first rounders. He also said Lamar Jackson and Josh Rosen were also in that class. So, yeah. So
you're right. I don't know why I just didn't think. I thought Baker Mayfield was like not significantly, but like at least 2 classes before him. So,
yeah, it was a surprise. Remember, we weren't sure if Sam was going to go 1. He ends up going 3. And Byron says to let up on Sam. Took the Jets to the playoffs in the first year. Yeah, I think Sam could still have a decent NFL career. I mean, sometimes you're in a bad situation, and we haven't seen a lot of quarterbacks do great in the Jets, so we'll see what happens.
He's in a good situation now with the 49ers. So
yeah, that'll be interesting to see what he kind of does from there. Other stuff from Lincoln Riley, the optimism. I think this is the general feel from talking to people. Remember, we sat down with Lincoln Riley, talking with him. There just seems to be like this optimism that things are going to be better. A lot of the stuff is going to get better. And his comment about the gap between like where the starters basically are and the guys behind them, it sounded like he felt like the depth just wasn't that good. And now, just from what Lincoln Riley's saying, it sounds like he feels like the starters are better, but not just that, but the people behind them are better.
Right. What was good for them last year was here, and then behind them was there. See this big gap there. Now it's a lot closer, which obviously makes for a better football team. And I believe the question was specifically about the defensive front area. So, that's a positive thing to hear, but it's also like a very spring thing to hear. Like you can tell, you can see it. They went out and got better players. They upgraded some positions. They're still a little thin in some areas defensively, but you definitely feel like this team, at least the roster defensively, is in a better spot than it was a year ago going to here. Obviously you lose Tulitu Pelotu, but you still have some weapons that you hope will be contributors and step up, and you hope that pass rush is better. But it's an encouraging thing to hear, but it's also, it's spring football. He was not. I don't know what I'm saying right now. I'm just talking in circles right now. But it is what it is. I have nothing to add there. I just talk myself into a circle and I'm walking myself out of it.
That's okay. No worries. We don't want to talk into a circle there. Yeah. Well, let's switch over to Alex Grinch, because there was a thread in the P about he'd be a great politician. I did the solid verbal this week with those guys talking about it, and they obviously got asking about the defense, and I think that's the one thing that, as much people don't like Alex Grinch right now just because the defense has been bad, but when you listen to what he has to say, he takes accountability. He will come in and say, "We sucked. This wasn't good." Things like that. He's someone that's not going to like tell you things are better than they are. I mean, he's going to point out that, like, hey, we had some good games in those 11 games that we won, but you're going to look at the ones that lost where the defense was bad. And I think when you listen to Clay Helton talk, they could get beat up on the defensive line, and he would praise like how the offensive line played for the other team or something. And I don't think you're getting that kind of coach speak or whatever from Alex Grinch. But he's not exactly providing some of the answers. And I don't know what answers would make the P happy or USC fans happy. But what did you make of kind of what he said about how this team needs to improve from year one to year two?
No answer would be good enough for the Peristyle, and the only answer they want is that Alex Grinch is fired, and that's not going to happen. So they have to live with it. But yes, Alex Grinch takes accountability for the defense being bad, and he said, when you do have a season like you did on the defensive side of the ball, the quote bullets are flying at the coaches, and he said it's deserved. After the performance they ended the year on, and kind of that slide through the back half of the season. So he takes full accountability for it, but he didn't say anything that was like specific in terms of changes they've made or anything like that. There was still some coach speak in there. There was accountability being taken, but there wasn't anything groundbreaking that was going to tell you that, this is going to be different or X is going to be different. It kind of was similar to what Riley was saying, is that you see the gap closing between, the starters and the backups. He also said a big important thing they need to accomplish is for those year two guys, those guys going to their second year in the system, they have to be year two guys. It's not enough just to look at it on paper and say, okay, this guy's coming back for another year in the scheme. You actually have to do it. You have to go out there and play like a year two guy. So you're hoping you see improvement just because there are guys that understand the system, have played in the system. They're a lot more comfortable in the system, and they can play a little bit faster because it's their second year in the system. So you're hoping to get a bump from just guys being more comfortable in the system. He did talk about that.
Yeah. I want to switch a little bit to the running back, Marshawn Lloyd, who you got to hear from for the first time since he's been a Trojan. And I'm not sure, you don't normally talk about like your roots or like where you're from. But
Yeah.
if you know this, he's actually from, they call it the DVM or DMV or something. It's Washington, D.C., Virginia, and I think they might include Maryland. I'm not, it's like sort of like a whatever. But from the area, guess where Caleb Williams is from. There's a connection there. His kind of recruit story was pretty funny.
Yeah, so they're very familiar with each other. Marshawn Lloyd and Caleb Williams played against each other growing up in the same, youth leagues against each other, and they played at rival high schools Caleb Williams at Gonzaga Prep and Marshawn Lloyd at DeMatha Catholic, which is actually my alma mater. So they're very familiar with each other. And Marshawn Lloyd, I asked him about, growing up and playing against him, and he was like, it always made me so mad because, he's Caleb Williams, he's unstoppable, and it was so hard to stop him. So now he's glad that they're teammates. But when he first entered the portal, they were one of the first teams to hit him up. Tennessee was actually the first team to immediately hit him up. But he said Caleb texted him. He said, hey, come to USC. Let's win a national championship. Let's go to the league together. Let's do it. And, that was kind of one of the selling points. And, when you're joining one of your old high school, I don't know what to call them, like DMV colleagues or what have you, someone you know how good they are. And obviously he won the Heisman. So now everyone knows how good you are. But I think it's just a cool story to get reunited for someone that used to go head to head with each other. And now they're teammates on the same USC team in the same backfield. So that is kind of cool. Two rivals at a high school and youth league now working together towards the same goal, which is a championship.
Yeah, on the other side of the country. And he's physically not the tallest guy in the world, right? But just looks kind of like stocky.
We're probably the same size. I might be a little bit taller than him, but yeah, I would not want to meet him in the hole. He's a big, thick dude. You could tell he's been, he's had multiple years in an SEC weight room. His arms are massive. And yeah, he did note, he is a powerful runner, but he has a little bit of speed to him. Don't count him out of that category. So I'm excited to see what Marshawn Lloyd can do with his offense, and I'm waiting to see some of those clips posted on the account for some runs by him.
Yeah, for our practice ones, we get to see little social media dealies. That'll be kind of fun to see. Anything else from practice you want to mention before we move on to like the transfer portal news? Or
Brendan Rice had it was interesting to talk to. He said he's bigger, heavier, stronger, faster than last year. He talked about how, this year the difference that he feels in this camp compared to last camp was just the energy. He feels like there's more competition. He said last year they thought they were, trying to impress the coaches. They didn't really know the plays. But now he says they're, quote, locked in, and they're working toward this goal to finish what they started last year, and that's win a championship. And that bond feels even stronger than it was in the spring, which makes sense because, they were all kind of new guys, and now there's an established foundation with that culture. So he talked a lot about that and, being a leader now. He's the old guy in the room, and he did kind of hint that this will be his last season at USC. I'm not sure if it was a joke, but he was asked about, building towards, being draft, and he's like, yeah, I'm out of here. And he kind of laughed, that Brendan Rice personality. So I don't know if he was joking but it did seem to imply that he aims to make this his final season. And he did drop that he is the fastest on the team. He said they all raced and he won. So that's a pretty big claim to make when you have some 10-2, 10-3 guys and Zachariah Branch and Damani Jackson.
Yeah.
So
did Branch get back to you on that?
He did not get back to me on that. We're going to have to check that out. I tweeted at him, so we'll see. But Mekhi Blackman did quote tweet me, and he didn't confirm that Brendan Rice could be the fastest on the team, but he did say that definitely he's up there, which is saying something because, he's a 6'2", 212-pound wide receiver. He's built physically, and if he strings together some games like he had again in the Cotton Bowl against Tulane, he's going to be on some all Pac-12 list, maybe even some All-American third team list. Some honorable mention if he plays at that level across a whole season. He's a dude, can be a dude, just needs to get that consistency down to show. But he talked about that Cotton Bowl game and how the chemistry with Caleb Williams it felt like he finally clicked, and the results spoke for themselves. But he said they're trying to get that Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow type connection. So he said that's been going on early in camp here, kind of building off what they were able to do in the Cotton Bowl here. So you hope as a USC fan it sees through the rest of the season.
Yeah, I mean, just like 75% of that game potential. Like that's huge. That was an enormous, such a huge performance.
And again, it's Tulane, so
Right.
it's not like Notre Dame or
But it's
Utah.
kind of those things you could do.
Yeah.
I think you're playing like youth baseball, and you might be playing a bad team, and like one of your number 8 hitter hits a couple home runs, and you're like, oh, we weren't sure if you were able to do that, and like you do. I mean, there's sort of one of those things where the potential is there. I think if you're watching the Lakers right now, seeing like Austin Reeves like go crazy and average 20 points over the last 8-9 games, whatever it is. Like, hey, I can do this. If I can be a higher level player than what I've been doing. And we just didn't see Brendan Rice be that kind of higher level player. And I think you saw him do it on a big stage, against an opponent that won a lot of games, even though it's Tulane. There's no reason he couldn't do that through most of the Pac-12 schedule. I feel like, so that's good. We'll see if they can keep that up, if that chemistry is going to stick around there. It's funny, in the end of our intro, the last clip to the, we use our tunnel vision intro for the Peristyle Podcast. The last clip is Malcolm Epps catching a touchdown pass. Probably have to change that because Malcolm Epps is now entering the transfer portal. He announced on social media this week. So he was out there at practice the first week, I believe. Mm-hmm. Yeah, if I'm not mistaken. And then now he is gone. So any thoughts on Malcolm Epps? He says he's going to be a graduate transfer, so he's got his degree.
Doesn't have to sit out, have his degree. And it was just a very interesting time to transfer, not waiting until the end of spring camp to make that decision. Maybe he was already thinking about it going into spring camp, went to workouts, did go through that first week of practice, and then they go on spring break. So I don't know if he went back home to Texas. I assume he went back home to Texas, but maybe he was back home in Texas, did some thinking, have some time to think, maybe thought about what his role was going to be like, reviewed the first week of practice. I'm not sure, but, ended up deciding to get a jump start on getting in the portal, his graduate transfer. I hope he finds a new home, but it is just interesting timing also with USC still being in the recruitment of a certain 5-star tight end, Deuce Robinson. Now, a lot of people are pointing to Malcolm Epps deciding to enter the portal now as like the smoking gun for that Deuce Robinson is coming. I doubt Lincoln Riley sat him down and said, hey, look, Deuce Robinson's coming. I doubt he said that to him, but maybe it was inferred that there'll be more competition coming in the summer and fall. Deuce Robinson will be making his decision, I believe, April 1st. That is the that is the deadline he has set for himself. So it's coming up here that we're going to know shortly what the decision is for Deuce Robinson, and it feels like it's all USC at this point, but you never know in recruiting. But it is just interesting that timing just to participate in the first week, go on spring break, and then enter. It's a loss for depth purposes because USC is now very depleted from a tight end perspective for spring. They only have 2 healthy tight ends in Lake McCree and Carson Tabarucci, who is playing kind of that H-back role. Jude Wolfe is on the mend with that foot injury, so he should be back in the summer and fall. And then you have Kate Eldridge coming in the summer as well, 3-star prospect out of Washington, who is more H-back than true tight end as an athlete out of his high school. But yeah, if you were able to get Deuce and get him in that room, it's wide open for snaps and reps and catches and all that. So we'll have to see, but they're gonna have to gut it through spring with just like 2 scholarship tight ends at least for right now. Remember, because Ethan Ray did leave the program, kind of processed out, and he battled his injury. So that is another body though that you don't have. So very thin. I think Malcolm Epps has already been taken off the roster. So that was interesting how quickly that worked. But yeah, there's only 4 tight ends listed on the roster right now. One of them being a walk-on and one being injured. So yeah, it's pretty thin right now. I wouldn't be surprised if they move somebody like an edge guy to just for a body or something.
Yeah. Poot wrote in about this. He says, Malcolm Epps just entered the portal. I suspect that's because word has gotten around internally that Deuce Robinson has signed. If we can't get him, we're dangerously thin at that position. McCree has shown promise. Ethan Ray retired. Jude Wolf has spent his entire career as a Trojan hurt. Talk me off the tight end ledge, Ryan. This position keeps me up at night. Fight on, Poot. I mean, it's sort of like if the tight end position didn't exist, like how many points would USC scored last year? Like about the same, right? So I don't know if it's that dire, but it's sort of like it's a nice position to have, but Lincoln Riley can score without it. So I don't know. I wouldn't worry too much. What are your thoughts, Chris?
I think it's still in that growing pain area for Lincoln Riley. I think Shotgun has mentioned this, that you look at the room when he first got there, it didn't really have, I guess, the body type that he wanted, because, moving Carson to H-back, he's not a true tight end. He's more like that 6'2", 230 kind of a combo guy. And they got Cade Eldridge out of Washington. He fits that mold as well, kind of an athlete that can play all over the field. So you see him molding that position into what he really wants, which is kind of that running back, fullback, kind of move out, can play a little tight end, a little inline. So got two guys there now. I think we'll see a jump forward with that position. And, Deuce Robinson, probably more flexed out wide receiver, obviously, than a true tight end. He's not going to be like an inline blocker or anything like that. He just goes out there to make catches and touchdowns. That's what he does. So if you get Deuce Robinson, signs point to USC being the moving away as the leader for this one. So I'm trying to talk you off the ledge. USC's in a really good spot for Deuce Robinson, but you add Deuce Robinson to that room of Lake McCree, healthy Jude Wolf, Carson Tabarucci, and then Cade Eldridge. That's a decent tight end room. Not the deepest in the world, especially with some of the injuries that they've had, but
No.
I think it's more versatile than what it can do this year, with having Deuce being the big mega weapon, Lake McCree being a big potential to be a weapon. We saw that his true freshman year. And then having two more true H-back kind of bodies in there that you can play with and maybe add that wrinkle for this year's offense.
Yeah. All right. Why don't we take a quick break and we'll come back. If you're watching us live, we don't have a ton of questions today. We have a voicemail and an email, a couple of comments so far. So put question in the comments over on YouTube and we will get to it in a bit. Otherwise, we'll wrap it up a little earlier and let you guys go about your day. But thanks for staying with us. Back in a minute. All right, we're back here on the Peristyle Podcast, returning with Chris Trevino. I am Ryan Abraham. We do have, we have to do the...
3 simple words.
You've got mail.
Woohoo!
Actually, I got one, West Texas Mike, who, he listens to our shows. He's a big USC fan, but he also listens to the Podcast of Champions. He's created over like 200 drops from our shows. I haven't even gone through them yet. I have to go through a lot.
200 drops?
It's like insane.
From
the amount of little video clips and stuff.
From which podcast?
From all of them. So there's ones of you, there's ones of me, there's ones of me here, there's ones of Harvey Hyde, there's ones of, I think he even grabbed some from Elizabeth from like our TikToks. Like he's made little clips of a lot of stuff from David Woods, who's my co-host on the Podcast of Champions. So if we say something sort of memorable or whatever, he just clipped them and I'll put them in there.
I hope he did the rail one you said 2 weeks ago.
What was the rail?
Something about you getting railed or something.
Oh, okay. He probably did. I'll have to look there, but there are so many. But thanks, West Texas Mike.
Shout out.
I need to go through them. Yeah, shout out. So why don't we start with a voicemail?
Hey, Ryan, USC just hired a defensive consultant. Is this person overseeing the defensive coordinator, or is he just, what is he there for? He has a lot of experience, but he's never really been a successful defensive coordinator or anything like that. Very interesting. Lincoln Riley has stated that he's going to get more involved with the defense. Well, that's one way. Delegate. Curtis from Moreno Valley.
Thanks, Curtis. I did forget to mention, that was one of the notes I had in there. Greg Brown is a longtime coach, defensive coach, SEC, NFL, and he was brought on as a defensive analyst. I'm not sure you know the hierarchy works, Curtis, but defensive analysts don't come in and oversee the defensive coordinator. Sometimes they're sort of like the waiting in the wings guy for the defensive coordinator. Like we've seen, what was it? Who did Sark hire? Patterson, like Gary Patterson, was it right? Yeah, the TCU.
Mm-hmm.
You bring
left?
him. You bring him as an analyst, and sometimes you're like going to take over. And we've seen that with Nick Saban, where like Lane Kiffin was an analyst and ends up becoming the offensive coordinator eventually. But no, he's an analyst. He's helping out, eyes and ears. But you are not overseeing the defensive coordinator as an analyst.
Just another voice. Just a guy with experience that can come in, look at it, and say, look at a problem, be like, hey, maybe we could try this, or obviously he's coached 3 Thorpe Award winners, so he's a good defensive back coach, defensive back by trade. Many stops, so he knows a lot of things. NFL, like you said,
trade.
college.
Just hearing by trade, by the way, it's like I'm a quarterback coach by trade. Like how you're gonna have nightmares?
Not me. I love the phrase by trade. Defensive back coach by trade, and yeah, he just has experience and he has knowledge, and you want to tap into that, but he's not overseeing, Alex Grinch or the defense at all. He's not that big of a name. He's not Gary Patterson or anything like that. So he's just here to help share his wisdom, share some things he's learned, share things that work for him. Just an extra pair of eyes and ears and hands to work with the defensive backs and such.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for that one. So Shotgun and I did a show last week. Was it last week or the week before?
Whatever, go into the March Madness. So probably, yeah.
Yeah. There was one show there's one question that we answered that was for you we left over from Coach B. He says, 18K, since we will all be flying to College Park every other year soon, I'm hoping you could give us some feedback about the city. I think it would be wild if you coordinated an LA takeover of a locals-only dive bar for post-game celebrations, and when the Marylanders get mad, we can all be like, no, it's cool. I'm with Chris Trevino. And then we will tell the bartender that you are buying to get a round of Natty Bo for the whole bar. Natty Bo. What is
beer.
That's a beer. Okay. For the whole bar, and everyone will be happy. Also, is it Marylanders, Marylandies, Marylandians? And for that matter, what is Old Bay? Thanks, bro, especially Jack. You're the best little dude, Coach B.
Shout out to Coach B. Always asks questions for the composite. So, lot to process there. It's Marylanders is what I would say.
Okay.
Marylandites, not
And
necessarily.
you're the official spokesperson of.
I guess. Old Bay is just, I don't know if that's a serious question. I don't actually know what, it's a bunch of different spices. It's orange. It's orange. It's an orange seasoning. You get it on your crabs. You put it on your shrimp cocktail. It's salty. It's briny. It's delicious. It's one of the best things that you can put on seafood. So I highly recommend it. If you don't, I remember I went to a seafood place out here and I asked for Old Bay and they laughed at me. So it's never again. Never again will I go there. But yeah, I think so College Park, it's called Construction Park because there's been a lot of construction going on. They've been building it up and changing it, and it's just like a Route 1. That's the main road you just drive through, and it's just straight, the main artery through the college town, and it's small but also feels big in a way. But there's a lot of different. It's changed a lot since I was there, but to do that, I would love to do that. I think we would probably want to do something not as collegey, like the main bars, like Bentley's. That's like the legendary bar, very fratty or whatever. And after big wins, the thing to say is we're going to Bentley's. That's where you celebrate a big win. But I'd probably do like Lito's Pizza. There's a nice Lito's Pizza there. So if you don't know what Lito's is, it's like their famous pizza in Maryland. It's a square pizza. So it's like one of the things out there. So we'll probably do it there. The Lito's in College Park is really nice. Or maybe if you want to do more bar, probably like Looney's Bar, which is further up. It's not as close to the main heart of the heart of the the main strip, if you will. So those would be my two options, but probably Lido's because I do miss square pizza.
All right. Isn't it Detroit does like square pizza too? Or is
Detroit
it
does square
Sicilian?
pizza.
Yeah. When we had an event in 2017 when USC played at Texas, and we ended up taking over a bar down there. Were we on the same team at that point? Was
I didn't go to that. I think so, but I didn't go to that game.
You didn't go to that game, okay. And it ended up being like a smallish bar.
That might have been our first year.
I think it was first year, 2017. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it might have been a smallish bar, but it was like a USC guy owned it.
Okay.
And it was very strange because we didn't realize how many people were going to come. We thought, like 40, 50 people will show up. And it was kind of rainy. So this was Friday night before the game. And there was a line out the door. We had 200 people in the place. They had like 2 bartenders working, and it was like almost impossible to get a drink. It was slam-balled in there. It was packed. And there was raining, and people are standing outside waiting to get in. All USC people. I guess there wasn't...
For you?
For
for
USC. This was our event, yeah. And for me. I mean, my sister came to the game, and she's very much center of attention. She's my little sister, center of attention kind of person. And all these people are just constantly like, "Can I get a picture with you, Ryan?" And like, you're like, you've gone to these events, like, and this was a lot of people, constantly getting photos and everything. And my sister was like, "Why do they care about you?" I'm like, "I don't know. It's just whatever." But it was a lot of fun, and Keeley was there, and we had a good time. But when you do these road trips, if it's a big game, there's a lot of USC fans on the road, and they want something to do. I've done smaller ones with like, USC Psycho with Roy. I think when we were in Seattle, we would have an event, and I don't know, that was more like 40, 50 people kind of thing. But the Austin one, I just think there wasn't, like USC's Alumni Association had something, but I think you had to be like some donor status to go to their event. So there wasn't really like an event. So our event became like the event, and it was great. So I would love to do something like that in Maryland.
For the first Big Ten season, we should do an LA takeover at some bar every single one, 100%. Just for the first one. Starting with Vegas, LSU.
I think the 4 whatever Midwestern road trips that'll be, or whatever they are, I think I'm going to go for the whole week for each one. It's just going to be like, we should have an RV. I'm going to get the RV back. It's just to be like, we're coming to town.
We got to go big for the first season.
It's like what's it called? College game day. It's like, we're coming to your city. Like, like, yeah.
We should do it.
That'd be
Pull
awesome.
it off. It's going to run us ragged, I'm telling you, but it will be so much fun.
The travel budget for that, I'm going to have to like super budget a bunch of travel for that. It's going to be crazy. James says, have you all noticed, this is a YouTube comment, have you all noticed how college football is getting better and better as USC continues to win? I live on the East Coast, and we love watching USC football from North Carolina to California. Thanks. That's a comment. Have you noticed that? I guess that's a question.
Football's getting better and better?
Yeah.
Sure. Football always feels fun to me. Not necessarily better, but it's always entertaining.
Yeah. I think there was a starred question I missed, but it was about, my apologies. I think I clicked on the wrong one to put it up here, but, and I do think it's getting better and better. I love it. I love the expanded playoff. I think, Mick Cronin, the UCLA head coach going into the Sweet 16, had a funny kind of quirk today. We were talking about, yes, it's changing. College football is different than it was. College basketball is different, the portal and all that. It was something about like, for every failed company, there's a CEO there saying, but that's always worked in the past, And so like, yes, things are going to change. You have to adapt. So I think college football is getting better. I don't watch as much college basketball anymore. March Madness is fun. I just don't get into it as much. I think as a sport, it's definitely lost popularity, like in the grand scheme of things. The NFL, they're talking about NFL like stuff today, like all the pro days and everything. It's way off season, and the NFL is like top of mind. Colin Cowherd had like one of the Cam Hayward as a guest today, like way off season. You're talking about NFL all the time. College football, I think we can get there, but it's still gaining popularity where some of the other sports are not. So I think we're in good hands there. The other comment though, on YouTube was about any cultural changes you're seeing from year 1 to year 2, and which it's hard to like look at and see a cultural change. But is there something maybe just that people have said that's a little bit different, Chris?
Not necessarily. I mean, it's only been 2 practices that we've covered, so
Yeah.
haven't really dug super deep into the cultural questions yet. You know, it's more like newcomers, stuff like that. So I think in a couple of weeks we'll get more of that, but still waiting to see some of those Trojan decals. You know, that was a cultural thing that was changed from last year. You know, have to earn your decal.
Yeah.
Haven't seen any yet, so I'm sure we'll start to see some of those as the weeks go by. That's one of the big things I'll be looking for. You know, that was established last year, to see that kind of move forward another year.
Yeah, Curtis had called in about that too. So we're not sure about that. You see the padded helmets and stuff, but if that's a thing anymore. We kind of got it, like, was it midway through spring? I think Lincoln Riley started talking about it, so we can check with him. But I mean, one of the common themes is just like now in year 2, you're sort of like learning the process, and you know, it's like if you've done a workout, like if you go through the workout the first time, you're kind of learning the moves and learning the steps and what to do. And it seems like that's sort of what it was last year. Everyone's kind of learning what is expected of them, and now you know. And Lincoln Riley, when we sat down with him, talked about players know, and now it's not just us coaches saying, here's how we want it done. There are players that went through it last year that when a new guy comes in, you could say, this is how we do it. Like now players kind of know. So I think that's probably a big part of the culture, is just people have now been in the system for a year, and they're not just learning about it, they're understanding it, and they can teach the young guys and kind of bring everyone up to speed together, if that's fair. If you think that makes sense, let's go to Preston's Paradise. How is Tackett Curtis?
Big
at practice.
Yeah, heard he's doing really well. His work ethic off the charts, really impressing the coaches. He's on the right path.
Yeah.
And he's huge, so.
He's a big dude.
For a freshman.
Yeah. Howell says, other than Caleb and Miller, who else have you seen taking reps at quarterback?
Jake Jensen.
Yeah.
Saw a little bit of him yesterday. Obviously, Malachi Nelson still coming off that shoulder injury. You know, don't want to throw too much at him at one time, but I feel like I did see Jake Jensen taking some reps yesterday.
Yeah. He and Malachi, we've seen some social media posts where he's throwing passes, so he's definitely out there. Boomer Assassin. I'm not sure if Boomer Assassin is he a Oklahoma fan, but he seems to be nice in the chat, which is nice. But he wants to know, how hot is Alex Grinch's seat?
I'd say it's warm.
I think it's more than warm.
You know, it's like when on a cold day, you get in your car, you have the butt warmers. You don't put it all the way up. You do the lowest setting.
Yeah,
I'd say it's.
I did the lowest setting.
Yeah,
but it's still warm. It's
Sure.
still significantly warmer than what it was.
you could look down. It's like, is this seat heated? Because you feel it.
Yeah, you're like, ooh, that's good. I can't do like the fully hot one. Like it's just like that's.
Oh,
too
I
much,
can,
like, right away.
and then I forget,
And then
and
you're
I'm like, why am I burning up?
then you're like, oh, something smells good. Oh wait, that's my, it's my ass.
It's my
cooking.
keister.
It's cooking. Yeah. So to me, if you had, because I think it's warmer. I mean, it's warmer than warm. Simply because if USC's defense goes out and say they lose 2 or 3 games, and the defense is pretty much the reason in all of them, I don't think he's going to be retained at that point. So I feel like this is basically a season where just do well and he's fine. Like, it's not like a Clay Helton hot seat where you're like, I don't care if he wins a national championship, we want him fired kind of thing. It's basically just like, you're talking about getting better, you're getting better players, and like, so get better. If they get better, he's fine. If they don't, he's fired. I think it's that simple. It's basically performance based at this point.
I love the national championship Clay Helton dilemma because it would break so many minds and you wouldn't even know what to do.
Do you remember that when they fired Clay Helton? So USC loses to Stanford. What they beat? Who was the first game? Was it San Jose State or something, or Fresno?
Yeah.
Maybe Fresno.
Whatever.
Whatever, it doesn't matter. Like this, like ancient history. And then Dante Williams gets hired. They go on the road. and beat Washington State,
State.
which ended up being the best win of the season, which no one knew at 2-1. And the debates were like, well, what if Dante Williams runs the table and makes the playoff and wins a championship? Is he going to be the next head coach and all this stuff? Like, do you remember that was like real discussions
That's where we're at.
that were had, which is kind of insane.
That season took so long.
It did take a long time.
That season was like 3 seasons.
Most of the radio shows I did, like a Chuck Oliver show as an East Coast guy, I did him this morning. And so many people are just like, we feel good for you, man. You know, where like he mentioned that Arizona game that USC, like it just looked terrible in and lost. He's like, I talked to you after that game and there's just no hope for fans. And just that, and your website depends on the team doing well. I'm like, yeah, that's something that's out of our control, but we can cover the team. But if the team stinks, a lot of people are very like happy that we've been have a lot better stuff to cover since was it November of 2021 since they hired Riley. Basically, September of 2021 when they fired Clay is when it sort of like things just got like your life just got way better. Like everything got better, and then it got like way better in November when they hired Lincoln Riley.
It's like detoxing. You're going to feel really sick, but then you're going to feel great.
Yeah, it was. But there was like 7 years of sick. Here's another one. Did either of you read Notre Dame president and 80s op-ed in the New York Times about the future of college sports? And if so, any thoughts? I have not. Have you?
I can't read, so.
I try to read stuff like that, but I didn't see it. If you want to give us like a summary or something.
Spark note it.
Yeah, I didn't do that one. And then we got, I think, one last one from Tim. It seems that the media is getting more access to practice during the spring. Is this true? And if so, do you think it continues into the fall and the season?
Feels the same.
Yeah, it's about the same. It's more in general than what Lincoln Riley allowed in Oklahoma. And USC was just more open. USC is in a pro sports town. And I want to do this exercise at some point, but like we'd have to figure out how you determine like the biggest, like, I don't know, most high profile sports athlete, you rank them. Like who's the highest profile athlete in like Southern California in Los Angeles? It's probably LeBron James, right? Caleb Williams would be
top 5?
No, I don't even think so. But in like Oklahoma, number 1, like in most states, Caleb Williams,
You don't think he's top 5?
no. I mean, you have just from, would you watch the baseball classic at all? Like, is he bigger than Mike
Shohei
Trout?
Ohtani?
Ohtani? Like, no. Is he bigger than like Kawhi Leonard or Paul George? Or, I mean, I guess, even like Westbrook. I mean, and any of like how many of the big Dodgers, like Clayton Kershaw, like there's just so many dudes. Like, I don't think he's top 10. He might not be top 15 as far as like, yeah, he won the Heisman Trophy, but this is a pro sports town. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, and you would have to figure out like, how would you, I don't know if it's social media following or whatever, but I mean, this is big boy sports being played here. Like Ohtani might be the greatest baseball player we've ever seen, and he's like playing in Southern California. Mookie Betts, like, is he bigger than Mookie Betts? Like, he's not bigger than Mike Trout. He's not bigger than LeBron. He's not bigger than some of these dudes. I don't even know like Kings guys, or if there's any soccer dudes, probably not. But I mean, I'm not a big soccer guy, but there might be. I don't know. Would you argue against any of those? Like, would you say he's bigger than Trout or something, or
No.
bigger than Kawhi Leonard? Like multiple
maybe
NBA champions?
maybe Kawhi Leonard.
Really?
Because Kawhi Leonard doesn't talk.
I know, but he's like not a bigger sports star than Kawhi Leonard. Like,
Sure. It's just
yeah, Kings fans, tell us some Kings that would be on the list. I don't know.
It's just because he's not a professional athlete. You're a professional athlete.
Right.
You get to play.
But the point is, like in Oklahoma, there aren't any, right? Or there's some. I mean, he might be. Who's that point guard for, or the guard for OKC? I'm going to the Laker game tomorrow night.
Couldn't tell you.
Yeah, it's at 3 initials, but anyway, he's like a stud. But it's I'm kind of off track. Where did I get back to? How did we get here? Oh, as far as access. So being a professional sports town, Tim, you have to be more open if you want to get headlines. If you're a superstar player, and I would argue isn't one of the top 10 sports personalities in the city, in the region, I think Lincoln Riley understood that you need to be more open. And he's done that. And I think he's making it's not as open as it was during Pete Carroll, but Clay Helton was shutting stuff down too. But I think it's similar to what we had with Clay Helton. And it allows us to do our jobs. We can still talk to players, which a lot of places you can't. We couldn't talk to a lot of assistants during the season. I think we're going to get a little bit more, to answer your question, we'll probably get a little more access during the season because we'll probably get an assistant from time to time. We're going to get each assistant once during the spring. So they won't be completely shut out of this process. The fact that, and I think it really helps players to be able to do interviews. If you remember back to your college days, Chris, or doing your first job interview, the best way to practice for job interviews is to do interviews, is to do more of them. Apply for a job you don't even care about, just to interview, and some person's asking you questions and you get to answer them. I think that helps. And when I've hired people, the more I interview someone, the more job interviews I went on, the more it would help me do my own interviews. And so I feel like getting that practice, you just see USC players when they get to the league and they're more ready because they've done a lot of interviews. If you're someone that's been shut out and they never get to talk to the media, I think you're doing that player a disservice, especially in the NIL world. Like if I'm a player and I'm playing for a coach who doesn't want me to do interviews and I want to get out there and show my personality so I get more TikTok followers and make more money in NIL, I would be pretty upset with that coach. So I think Lincoln Riley has done a good job adapting. One, he's now no longer a first-time head coach. Two, he's in a much different market where you should be more open. And I give him kudos for adapting to that. You never want a coach to feel like they're putting themselves at a disadvantage. And he's mentioned things like that before. He doesn't want to talk about this because he feels like that would put his team at a disadvantage. But I feel like he's embracing it and seeing that, hey, we can have players talk, we can have coaches talk, and it's not going to kill our team or anything. And it actually helps the players, and it probably helps the coaches. They get more high profile. If you're Googling, some coach that gets hired and he's someone that's been on Nick Saban's staff for 15 years, has never done an interview, you're like, I don't know what this guy thinks. But if it's someone like, oh, it's Dennis Simmons. Okay, well, there's a whole bunch of interviews we've done with Dennis Simmons already. They're all on YouTube. You can go check it out. You can see his personality, and I think that helps them as well. So kind of a long answer there, but yeah, I think he's more open, and I think he's adapting. Some of it being more comfortable as a head coach. I think we saw Ed Orgeron when he was a head coach for the first time at Ole Miss, was so buttoned up and didn't trust anybody. And when he got an opportunity at USC, he was different, and I think when he got an opportunity at LSU, he was different. So, yeah, that would be my assessment of it.
I'll tell you what, nothing that we asked last year gave up a game-winning touchdown to Tulane.
Yeah. People are saying, wake up, Chris. When I just went on this long rant. Interesting, but all right. Let's see. Oh, Aaron Darnold and Cooper Kupp are bigger too. Okay, yeah. I mean, huge, Aaron Darnold, the best defensive player in the NFL. He happens to be in Los Angeles. He's bigger than Caleb Williams. There's just a lot of dudes. I don't know how you could say top 5. But we would need some kind of metric, right? I mean, Matthew Stafford, I don't know. Justin Herbert. I don't know, even Austin Eckler.
You're just naming every player now.
I mean, Justin Herbert's like a budding superstar in the NFL. He's not a college coach. I mean, a college player. But yeah, a lot of good stuff. I don't know who the Kings would be, so I don't know if they put. I think they put in there Drew Doughty. Yeah, there's some guys that Anja Kopitar. Yeah, Kopitar's huge. Doughty's huge. Yeah, so there's just a lot of dudes that in the city. So I think, and it's good. I think Caleb Williams likes that, where if you're in Norman, Oklahoma, you are you can't go anywhere. And, he mentioned, did he mention he was at a restaurant and Rihanna was there? It's nobody gives a crap about me Rihanna's here. Now, that was before he won the Heisman. He's going to get people that are going to come up to him for sure. But if you want to be a big, they're all pretty big fishes. Lincoln Riley's a pretty big fish, but this is a much bigger pond. And there's a lot bigger fish than you in there. But even though you're big, there's bigger fish and the pond's so big, you can kind of like, hopefully have more of a normal life, I guess you could say. If that makes sense. Okay.
Can we get our screen grab?
What do you need to screen? Oh, how do you want to do it?
I think this is the bit where we just do a different screen grab. I'm going to throw this at you.
Okay. Wait, do this. All right, like that. That'll be our screen grab. Perfect. All right, well, that's going to wrap things up. Rest up. Oh, let's see. Curtis says, what about followers? Yeah, I'm curious to see social media followers, like where Caleb would be. I think younger players have an advantage. Like, I mean, LeBron James is gonna have, a ton, right? But I don't know how much like Aaron Donald has, like on Twitter or Instagram or whatever. I'd be curious to see.
On Twitter?
I don't know if Caleb's on Twitter.
Aaron Donald
Look on Instagram real quick. Like,
Aaron Donald has 160 followers on Twitter.
oh, how about Instagram?
Instagram? Aaron Darnold?
Yeah.
Aaron Donald, sorry.
He might not be a social media guy. This is compelling.
Here we go. He has 1.2 million.
Okay. Do you know how many Caleb has?
Caleb, I don't think it's a million. Caleb Williams, I think it's like 181.
Okay, so he's not going to be. He's probably not top 20 as far as Instagram followers go. LA sports stars, like, I mean, some of those soccer guys would have more than that, and I don't even know who they are. So yeah, Curtis, that might be a way to do it, but I think he's, probably bigger than that, and he's younger, so it takes a little while to establish too. But anyway,
Cooper Kupp has 805,000.
Okay. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of dudes that have more than that. LeBron's got to have like tens of millions, I would think, right?
Yeah, LeBron's probably like 50 million or maybe 100 million.
I mean, so like, that's like he's just a dude in this, just down the street. He plays at Staples. I mean, crypto.com, like 2 miles away. So it's hard to be the biggest sports star in the region when you got guys like that in there.
I don't see a LeBron Instagram.
He does. He has one.
There are fan pages with more followers than Caleb.
Okay. So that's
Jesus Christ. Yeah, this random fan page is like 500,000 LeBron
Wow.
James followers.
Amazing. All right. Well, we'll wrap it up. It'd be a good little project to kind of look at, like, where would he rank? And you might have to talk to like a sports business guy who could kind of put it all together. Like, it's not just Instagram, or it's like buzz and,
149 million.
LeBron. Holy crap. Carlos Vela has 1.6 million on Instagram. Okay. So some dude I don't even know has like 10 times as much as Caleb does. All right. Well, let's wrap things up. Hope you guys enjoyed it. It's a lot of fun doing these on video. So if you're listening on the podcast platform, that's awesome. We love that you listen that way. But if you want to kind of check us out and watch the video, we will try to put more. I got to get more spring photos in, and put some. We'll put some more graphics and stuff up while we're talking here on our YouTube channel too. So it's a lot of fun. Try to make it a little more interactive with all of that. But for Chris Trevino, I am Ryan Abraham. Hope you enjoyed the show, and we will talk to you next time.